Hello, and welcome to Self-Awareness Path. Did you know that the brain does not always want what is best for growth? It wants what feels predictable. Many people assume that when a better opportunity appears, motivation automatically pushes them forward. Yet reality shows something very different. We often remain in routines that frustrate us, relationships that drain us, jobs that limit us, and habits that quietly sabotage progress. Not because improvement is impossible, but because the brain interprets familiarity as safety, even when that familiarity creates discomfort. From an evolutionary perspective, survival always mattered more than happiness. For thousands of years, the unknown represented danger. A new environment could hide predators, unfamiliar food could be poisonous, and unexpected change could threaten survival. The nervous system learned to reward predictable patterns and to treat uncertainty with caution. Today, the environment has changed dramatically, yet the brain still operates using many of those ancient survival mechanisms. As a result, psychological comfort does not always come from what improves life, but from what feels known. Think about how often people say they want change, yet delay the very actions that would create it. Someone may want a healthier body, but keeps returning to unhealthy eating patterns. Someone may want financial freedom, but repeatedly avoids learning new skills. Someone may want emotional peace, yet continues engaging in the same arguments and reactions. This is not simply laziness. It is a neurological preference for the familiar, even when the familiar produces discomfort. When the brain recognizes a known situation, it spends less energy predicting what will happen next. Predictability creates a sense of control, and control produces temporary psychological relief. The moment something unfamiliar appears, the brain must increase alertness, analyze possibilities, and evaluate risks. That extra cognitive effort can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even stressful. Because of this, many people unconsciously return to old patterns, not because those patterns are enjoyable, but because they require less mental uncertainty. Consider relationships as an example. Many individuals remain in relationships that do not truly fulfill them, not because better connections are impossible, but because the current emotional environment is familiar. The reactions are predictable, the conflicts are known, and the emotional rhythm feels recognizable. Starting something new means facing uncertainty. Will this person understand us? Will rejection happen? Will expectations change? The brain often chooses the predictable emotional discomfort over the unpredictable possibility of improvement. The same mechanism appears in career decisions. A person may stay in a job that creates daily stress, yet hesitate to pursue a new opportunity that could bring growth and satisfaction. The current environment may be exhausting, but it is known. New environments involve learning curves, new social dynamics, new expectations, and the possibility of failure. Even when improvement is likely, uncertainty feels heavier than familiar stress. Without awareness, the mind quietly convinces itself that staying where it is feels safer. Habits operate in exactly the same way. Every repeated behavior forms neural pathways that make the action easier to perform again. Over time, the brain begins to associate repetition with efficiency. Changing a habit requires creating new neural patterns, which initially demands more effort and attention. Because the brain naturally tries to conserve energy, it subtly pushes behavior back toward what is already automated. This is why people often return to old routines after moments of strong motivation fade. The difficulty is not a lack of desire. It is the brain's resistance to unfamiliar pathways. An important realization emerges here. Discomfort alone does not motivate change. Many believe that once discomfort becomes strong enough, change automatically happens. Yet countless people live for years inside situations that create frustration, anxiety, or dissatisfaction. Discomfort that is familiar becomes psychologically tolerable, while improvement that is unfamiliar feels uncertain. The mind calculates emotional predictability more strongly than potential benefits. Awareness begins to change everything. The moment we recognize that resistance to improvement is often a neurological preference rather than a logical decision, self-judgment decreases. Instead of asking, "Why can't we change?" a more powerful question appears. Is the mind protecting familiarity rather than pursuing growth? This shift allows us to observe our own patterns with curiosity instead of frustration. Small examples appear everywhere. When learning a new skill, the first attempts often feel awkward. The brain interprets the awkwardness as a signal that something is wrong, even though the discomfort simply indicates that new neural connections are forming. Many people stop at this stage, returning to activities where they already feel competent. Yet mastery only emerges by staying present long enough for the unfamiliar to become familiar. What once felt uncomfortable slowly becomes automatic, and the brain eventually accepts the new pattern as safe. Another powerful factor is identity. Over time, people develop internal narratives about who they are. Someone may believe, "We are not the type of person who speaks in public," or "We are not good with money," or "We always struggle with discipline." Even when opportunities for improvement appear, these identity beliefs quietly pull behavior back toward old patterns. Familiar discomfort feels consistent with the existing identity, while improvement requires redefining how we see ourselves. The brain often resists identity shifts because they create uncertainty about how to behave in the world. Social environments also reinforce familiar discomfort. When a person begins changing habits, setting new boundaries, or pursuing different goals, others may react with surprise or resistance, not necessarily because they wish harm, but because the existing social balance changes. The brain senses that change might alter relationships, and again, familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. Many people abandon improvement not because they lack ability, but because remaining the same feels socially predictable. Yet history shows that every meaningful transformation begins with stepping into unfamiliar territory. Every new career path, every improved habit, every healthier relationship started as something uncertain. Growth always contains a temporary period where discomfort increases before stability returns. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who progress often lies in understanding that this temporary discomfort is not a warning sign of failure. It is a natural stage of adaptation. When we observe our own decisions carefully, patterns start to appear. We notice how often hesitation emerges right before improvement. We notice how the mind produces convincing explanations to stay where we are. This is not the right time. Maybe later. It might not work. Many of these thoughts are not objective evaluations. They are protective mechanisms designed to maintain predictability. Recognizing this allows us to pause and ask whether the resistance comes from realistic risk or from the brain's preference for familiarity. One practical approach is gradual exposure to change. Introducing small, unfamiliar actions teaches the brain that new experiences do not necessarily threaten safety. Each successful step slightly expands the comfort zone. Over time, what once felt intimidating becomes ordinary. The nervous system learns that improvement and safety can coexist. Another powerful tool is reframing discomfort. Instead of interpreting the uneasy feeling that accompanies change as danger, we can learn to interpret it as evidence of growth. When new behaviors feel slightly uncomfortable, it often means the brain is forming new patterns. This perspective transforms discomfort from an obstacle into a signal that development is happening. It is also helpful to recognize that familiar discomfort has hidden costs. Remaining in the same patterns may feel predictable, but predictability does not always equal stability. Over months and years, the accumulation of unaddressed dissatisfaction can quietly shape mental health, opportunities, and self-confidence. Sometimes the greater risk is not the uncertainty of improvement, but the certainty of remaining unchanged. Every moment of awareness gives an opportunity to choose differently. Not every unfamiliar path leads to success, but every attempt weakens the automatic pull of old patterns. The more often we act despite the discomfort of uncertainty, the more flexible the mind becomes. Gradually, improvement stops feeling threatening and begins to feel natural. Imagine how different life decisions would look if we recognized this mechanism earlier. How many opportunities were avoided, not because they were impossible, but because they were unfamiliar? How many habits persisted, not because they were beneficial, but because they were predictable? Awareness does not instantly remove fear, but it changes the relationship with it. Fear becomes information rather than a command. As we continue moving through life, the brain will always seek familiarity. That instinct will never disappear completely, and it does not need to. Familiarity can provide stability and continuity. The key is learning to distinguish between familiarity that supports growth and familiarity that quietly limits it. Once this distinction becomes clear, decisions begin to shift. We stop asking only, "Does this feel comfortable?" and begin asking, Does this move us forward? The next time hesitation appears before a meaningful change, it may not mean the path is wrong. It may simply mean the path is new. Growth often feels unfamiliar before it feels rewarding. When we understand that the brain naturally prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar improvement, we gain the ability to pause, reflect, and choose consciously instead of automatically. And sometimes, the most powerful transformation begins with a simple realization. Comfort zones are not always comfortable, they are simply known. The moment we become aware of that difference, the door to intentional change opens, and each small step into the unfamiliar slowly becomes the new definition of normal. Thanks for watching. Your support is crucial to us at Self-Awareness Path. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to stay updated and help our channel grow. Don't forget to like and share. It shows your appreciation and boosts our visibility. We value your feedback or any suggestions you might have, so drop a comment. Explore more content on our channel. There's plenty to discover. Thanks for being part of our community, and see you in the next video.